Hey, Donnie, how are you, sir?
I'm okay, thank you.
All right, we're going to go right into questions for our coach, Kirkpatrick.
Okay.
Hey, Donnie, when you look at especially their line and linebackers, Cincinnati, it's almost all seniors. I mean, the freshmen, sophomores you have are some of your better players. Just what is that dynamic like, maybe of that experience gap or the challenge of those experiences you'll be going against?
Yeah, it does. It presents some challenges there that they have grown men. Not that we don't, but I mean we have young grown men, I guess. And the experience that they have, and just that obviously I don't know. They may be the best defense in the country. I mean, statistically they got to rank up there pretty good. Uh, just everywhere you look, they got experienced kids. They got big kids. They're strong. They're physical. There's really nobody's figuring them out yet. Nobody's been able to do anything with them. So our young guys, they'll embrace this though. I think what I'm saying. They respect everybody. They don't fear anybody. We've gained some experience. Nishad Strother, he'd played 18 plays going into the season. Now he's played a ton. Maybe more than he wanted to. You know what I'm saying? So he's grown up a lot. Avery Jones had played one college play when he got here at the end of a game. And so he's gotten to play a lot. So he's grown from that. Fernando had played, but he'd not played center. That's been a big adjustment, going to having to snap the ball. But this is a great defense. You can't sugarcoat it any other way. It's a great challenge. They were a great defense last year, though, too. You know what I'm saying? I think we played pretty well last year against them. I don't know if that'll help us or hurt us going into this game. Maybe we snuck up on them a little bit last year. I know we won't this year. They're playing for a playoff spot. They're playing for national ranking, all that kind of stuff. So got our hands full. And but what more could you ask for? National televised game, Friday night, under the lights, against a team ranked in the top 10. It's where everybody aspires to be in those type games. So we got that opportunity.
Coach, going off last year, not to get into the X's and O's, but do you expect kind of a chess match, maybe them to do some things differently based off what y'all were able to do last year?
I don't know. They don't change much. You know what I'm saying? I know that maybe we had some success. CJ had a big game. Maybe they'll study us. They'll know what we do a little bit more. Than they did last year. They'll have more film on us. They'll have played against us, so they'll know how big a kid is, how strong a kid is, how fast a kid really is, what he does, his mannerisms. But the thing about them is they've been so successful that they haven't had to change. I'm sure they could a little bit, but the scheme is complicated enough in itself that I don't know if they could do any more than they're doing right now.
Coach, I want to ask you about having one of the best defenses in the country as Cincinnati does. How do you get the running game cranked up this week?
Well, I'll tell you that, and that's the hardest thing because they're not giving up any. We make all these cut-ups of different things to analyze the game and study the game. And so one of the cut-ups we make is an explosive play. So a run like over 12 yards or a pass, over 20 yards and whatever like that. And so we have like the whole season this year and then some selected games from last season, like Memphis, who I think was our conference champions, if I remember right. I think they were. And another team in there. And there were 11 explosive runs in all those games. And when I looked at them, 3 of them were because they got penalties on those plays. So there was really only 8 explosive plays of runs over 12 yards. You're like, wow, that's scary to think that you've got to grind it out. So what we'll have to do is we're going to have to be patient a little bit. You've got to take some 3 and 4 yard gains. When we looked at our running game last year, that's what we were able to do. We didn't have a lot of explosive plays, obviously, but we did have some 4 and 5 yard gains in there where we got a little bit of a crease and the back stuck it up in there. You've got to do that or you won't be able to throw the ball, I don't think, nearly as successfully as you'd like to be able to do if you can't make them have to defend the run a little bit. I think that's kind of what happened a little bit last week was in the fourth quarter and then maybe late in the third quarter, it turns into, well, if you're going to run it, we're just going to let you run it and get 4 or 5 yards. You're going to run out of time. You're going to throw it. Now they put their ears back, on the course and struggle a little bit with pass protections. And we had one fumble turnover because the guys are just jetting up the field. So we can't let that happen. We got to find a way to run the ball. We've got some schemes. You got all the schemes, you can get the angles and stuff like that. They're a big movement defense. And our defense is the same thing. So we go against a scheme similar to that. So I don't think it's going to be too foreign for us. It's just the rhythm's a little bit different. The scheme, within the scheme is a little bit different. But, I think our backs just got to get going. They didn't have their best game last week. Raji was a little bit beat up, and we've tried to rest him this week. And he knows that the stage is there for him, and he's got to come back and really have a strong game.
Coach, his rushing numbers are pretty down this year compared to the last couple of years. Is that something that teams are taking away? Do you want him to do more of that? Kind of what's your take on that?
Well, I think it's a little bit of two things. One, I do think some teams think he can run, and they have made sure that somebody has the quarterback. We run a lot of read zone, and we run a lot of things where the quarterback has the option to pull the ball. But you don't pull the ball unless it's there. So they've got a guy standing there. Last week, their defensive ends broke off, and when we were in open sets and took the back, but they scraped the linebacker. There was a guy there every time waiting for the quarterback to pull the ball. We even tried to bootleg one time, and the guy, he beat us into the backfield, and that was one of the sacks right there. So I think that is part of it because they know he can run. And early in the year, against Central Florida, especially early in the game, he was running and hurting them with some of those things. I think the second thing was just, being inexperienced at quarterback probably just makes it hard to put a lot of true quarterback runs in your game plan. You just don't want to get him hit so much. We do need him to run some. We may have to pull that out a little bit more, this week to get that running game going because it does give you an extra blocker if your quarterback's running. But we'll have to still be a little bit smart with that, I think. I don't know that we're deep enough right now or comfortable enough at quarterback to turn this into a true spread quarterback running type game.
Donnie, how important is it going to be to get off to a fast start against a group like this and confidence-wise and just staying up with them and getting some points on the board early?
Well, I always think that's a great idea to get the lead early or to establish that you're going to have some success. It doesn't always lead itself to success. Last week we went 75 yards the first time we got the ball and scored. Against Central Florida, we drove it right down there and scored the first time too. And so it doesn't always mean you're going to win, but it obviously means you're in the game and, you're being competitive. And I think it does give everybody a lift, when you do that. You got to keep backing it up. That's the thing. Last week we scored early and then now field position, the next two possessions were inside our own 5-yard lines. So, your first thing is you got to get it out of there so that if you have to punt, your punter's got 15 yards to punt the ball and not get it blocked. Second, you hope you get it across midfield. We were able to advance it both times a little bit, but maybe not as well as we wanted. Then when we got our opportunities, that we had a couple of good field positions, and that's when we didn't score. That's one of the disappointments. We ended up getting a field goal blocked in one of them. But, the thing about Cincinnati is, and I don't watch the other side of the ball, but we did have their offense going against one of the team's defenses. Well, they're improved on offense now from last year. Last year they were kind of grinded out, punt it back there and let their defense win the game for them. This year they're scoring points. They've got a lot of transfers, I understand, and they're explosive. So we know we've got to go and move the ball and score points to have a chance to win the game this year for sure.
With C.J. Johnson specifically, is there anything – obviously that was a pretty remarkable performance he had last year in that game against Cincinnati. Is there anything he can draw from that, even just personally or confidence-wise or anything with the matchups he'll have against those corners?
Well, I think C.J.'s a pretty confident guy anyhow, and that's a remarkable game. I don't know of anybody – I know there may have been someone, but I've never seen anything like that, the performance he had. That wasn't necessarily planned. It got started with one long touchdown, and then it just kind of started going his way, and they just couldn't cover him last year. I'm sure they're going to have a plan for him in some way. They got really two good DBs, really three. They can bring another one in the corner, and so I'm sure they're going to just embrace that challenge. But he's a confident young man, and you know what? I know his numbers maybe pass-wise, catching's down a little bit. He's actually playing much better than he did last year in all phases of the game. He got us to a good start last week. He was playing really well. We might be playing him a little too much, too early, and that I do think he's gotten a little tired sometimes in the fourth quarter. So we need to roll some guys in there a little bit. With Josiah Hatfield being out for so long, that's hurt us a little bit there. Josiah's back this week. He's moving around, so that should give us the ability to rotate one more guy in there and keep him fresh. And boy, I'd love for CJ to have another one of those nights. I don't know that it could ever be that big again, but he definitely going to have to show up.
Coach, not to make excuses for you guys, but y'all have been without Deontay and Henderson basically this whole year. How tough has it been to operate like that and just really grow two new offensive tackles on the fly?
Well, first of all, I appreciate you trying to make an excuse for it because it doesn't sound good when we make them, you know what I'm saying? Because it is what it is, and everybody's got their issues. You know, the offensive line deal is boy, I think when we get through the end of the season, we'll sit down and really reflect on it because it's even bigger than what you just said to be true because Dante's played one game. Noah's played 0 games. And, you know, I'm watching cut-ups from Cincinnati, and Noah was our best offensive lineman probably at that time last year, and especially like in the Tulsa game he was. So we've had nothing. The other part of it is, you know, Peyton Winstead was a kid that when we got here that had started as a true freshman. So then he was hurt. Well, we thought we surely would have had him back this season. We've had no Peyton Winstead. He's had another surgery. He still wants to try it for next year. Cortez Heron was supposed to be, you know, one of our bell cows coming back this year too. So, you know, that goes way back. He had much experience, you know what I'm saying? We lost him for most of last year, but we're really counting on him back this year too. So there's another guy that hadn't played any for us too. So it has challenged us to have guys ready. We're out there in practice today, and the second O-line, I mean, none of y'all know their names. I promise you don't. We're Shank's just going crazy and pulling his hair out. I mean, those guys are supposed to be down there on the scout team, but because all those other guys are gone, other guys are starters. And so now these true freshmen and redshirt freshmen that aren't ready are our backups. So luckily the other group has hung in there, but it has definitely challenged us. We're not where we want to be because we want to be that offensive line that sets the tempo and other people fear. And our kids are doing great, but they're like I say, they're young for the most part. I mean, you know, Bailey Malkovic, this is really still his first year playing as well. And so Sean Bailey and Fernando are the only two really have played a lot. And it's been challenging. Hopefully we're going to get those things fixed. That's what we got to do in the program through off season, growing these guys up, and then recruiting is a huge part for the O-line here for the next year or two, I think.